I believe I'm live. If you guys can see this, that would be great to let me know here. So, just so everyone knows, I'm going to be outside. I do have chickens. I'm in the woods, so there might be some sounds and that kind of stuff going on here. Let me make sure I have my notifications off. All right, and let me know how the audio is here too. What's up, Steven? Hopefully you can see it on the screen. I'm trying some new software. But I appreciate everyone being here. Looks like there's 5 people. Everyone see me good? Thanks, Donald. Can you hear me good? You know, that kind of stuff. And then I will, once there's some more people, I will get to some of the questions. I appreciate everyone that submitted questions. And then if you have any other questions, feel free to throw them in there. I appreciate it, brother. I really do, man. Awesome. Thanks, Anthony. And like I said, if you guys have any questions, feel free to drop them here. I'm live on YouTube and Facebook right now. What's up, Pinky? How are you? So, like I said, share it into like some groups maybe. I don't know. I think Christine said she was going to share it into the Temco group. If not, someone could do that. That'd be great. But yeah, like I said, I'm seeing YouTube comments. I'm seeing Facebook comments. What's up, Fonzo? How are you, man? So I guess we can start getting to questions. Like I said, if you're just getting here, I appreciate you being here, and feel free to drop questions here, and we will go from there. Let me know if you guys hear my ducks and my chickens. Might have been a bad idea to be outside, but it's just really nice out, and I have some outside stuff I want to show you guys in a little bit in the paint booth. So I will show you guys that too. All right. So some of the questions I got in the form that you guys filled out. So I'm going to start from the top and kind of go from there. I got one from Jamie Vides. He says he got slick silver from me and he would like to know how to apply it. He's going to use an Iwata IS 400 and would like to know how many PSI he should use, how many turns in product, and how many turns of volume. So the best thing for slick silver, the good thing about it is it covers really well. So normally I do like a gray sealer or a gray primer, and then you mix it 1-to-1, and you can do with the Iwata probably around like 25, 22 PSI. If someone's an Iwata specialist, drop it in the comments for me. I'm not a huge Iwata guy. I've used Supernova stuff for clear, but not really for base much. But nonetheless, I'll tell you kind of what I would use for like a SATA or things like that. With the Iwata, I would use, like I said, probably a 1.4, right around 20, 25 PSI. I want to just do 50% overlaps, just like any other metallic. Usually most people, if it's a large project, you're going to use either slow or extra slow reducer. And that'll just help the metallics lay flat, that way you don't get modeling. And then normally 1 or 2 coats after you do 2, medium wet coats, just to make sure it's all even. That way you don't get modeling or striping or anything like that. So that would be my recommendation on the slick silver. Now the second question, Ron Bullock. I have a Chevy Suburban. I want to get painted 2 tones. Top Oriental blue with a gold pearl, and the bottom purple with a chameleon pearl. I'm asking what base color for the top half and for the bottom half. I was thinking top gold and silver top, the gold bottom. Very weird. You would use 2 different colors. So honestly, I mean, silver is going to be the best bet for both of those candies. Sorry if the compressor's a little loud. It should shut off in a minute. Like I said, I just got out of the paint booth. So with this specific project, I would do the whole car in slick silver or whatever silver you want. Obviously, I'm going to recommend our silver just because it's a little bit easier. But yeah, so do the whole thing in silver. That way you don't have to do multiple tape lines. So then you'll do the whole thing silver, mask, do Oriental on the top or bottom. I can't remember which one you said, but I recommend using the Candy Pearl base coat. That way you don't have to have a 2K lip. So it'll be more of a seamless transition. So that would be my thing. So just like I said, silver for both, slick silver ideally, and then I would cut the tape line, mask the bottom, spray the top, mask the top, spray the bottom. Probably Candy Pearl over that, probably 2 to 3 coats, more than less. And then obviously, like you said, you wanted to do basically a 4-stage, since that's going to be a tri-stage, with some sort of pearl. And let me look back at it. The gold pearl I would recommend would be my diamond pearl. I already sell it pre-mixed in base coat, so probably either the subtle or medium effect is what I would recommend. And then for the chameleon, I would recommend going either xenon or coastal, again mixed in the base coat, and again either subtle or medium. So then we'll move on to the next one. All right, so I got a question from Jeff Ralph. He asked why 5311 feels almost greasy when he sands it, aka plugs up the sandpaper. So it sounds like either A, you're not mixing it properly, meaning it's not being hardened properly, and you're not using HH 3100. And if you are, that means either it's too cold to be spraying, or B, you're sanding it too soon. But depending on your temperatures, I mean, that should be good to sand within a few hours, depending on the project, obviously. Like collision, usually like 2 hours or so. On an overall, I usually let it sit there for a while, and then sand it. Also, again, it depends on the paper. It depends on what grit you're starting with also. Without more information, I'm not really sure. Jeff, if you're here, comment there and I'll come back to this question and expand on it a little bit. But without that information, it's kind of hard for me to move on. But again, it's either not being hardened properly, or it's just you're sanding it too soon. All right, and then Ronald Davis, he asked, what type of paint do we sell? So mostly we sell Tamco paint. I also have a Alpha Custom color line, which is my own custom color line. But yeah, those are the only real 2 paints that we sell, other than like the Car Rep 2K spray cans. And yeah, that's basically the only stuff that we sell. And the main reason is it's really high quality stuff at really affordable prices. You're welcome, brother. I appreciate the question, man. Chandler, I'll get to you whenever I finish going through all these, all right? Man, it's a lot of talking. All right, so Don Roseman. He wants to doing flakes on light colors. Ideas to see good ways to check. Currently doing a yellow with mica. I got samples of silver flakes, standard and large rainbow flakes. All right, so first off, you're using the wrong product. So over light colors, microflakes always look dirty unless you're color matching that microflake. Light colors meaning white, gray, yellow, most bright reds, pinks, that kind of stuff. Most flakes over top are going to look dirty, look like sand in it, right? You're not really going to get that flaked out effect that you're probably looking for. My recommendation would be either use one of my diamond pearls to give you a sparkle of whatever color you want. Because they're translucent, they're glass based, which will give a little bit more pop without giving that sandy or dirty looking texture. Yeah, I mean, I just wouldn't use microflakes or metal flakes over light colors unless they're being color matched, or you're doing full coverage, which then obviously the flake is the color and not the base, right? You're not accenting it. Hopefully, Julian, or Don, hopefully that answered your question. All right, so then now I got Julian. Would like to know about adding pearls or microflakes to base coats. Microflakes I wouldn't add to base coats, mainly because you're going to be adding texture to base coat for kind of no reason. More than likely, it's going to get swallowed up by the opaqueness in the base coat. Whereas adding pearl directly to it, you'll have to add a lot depending on the color. Like black, you're gonna have to add probably anywhere from 100 to 200 grams just before you even really see a pearl effect. But yeah, depending on the color, pearls are a good option. Microflakes, like I said, I definitely wouldn't recommend, but the pearls being added will give that effect, depending on how much you want and that kind of stuff. Obviously, my alpha pearls are all compatible with most base coats, or actually all base coats that I know of. And then, yeah, I mean, that would be my recommendation, Julian. Hopefully that answers your question. All right, Thomas Shelley. My truck is flat black with rattle cans from the original owner. Ooh, this will be fun. I want to paint it with black cherry candy. Can I put the black cherry candy right over the flat black? First off, I am sorry to say I would highly recommend stripping the car, at least from the the rattle cans. Unfortunately, rattle cans are 1K, and most of the time, whenever you spray over it, it is going to wrinkle or splinter or whatever you want to call it. Wrinkle is my term that I usually use. So what that means is it's basically going to eat away at the paint underneath, right? It's going to make it pop off the surface, and then it's just not going to adhere or anything like that. So I would recommend sanding off the flat black rattle can completely, and then starting fresh with either a sealer or primer, depending on what's underneath it. But yeah, I wouldn't paint over it. And then not only that, candies don't really go over black unless you're using a candy pearl. So if you're going to use like a black cherry would be like our Cabernet or something like that, I would recommend the candy pearl base coat, but I would do that over either black Forever Seal or like black jet black base coat. That would be my recommendation. Yeah, I'm definitely wouldn't go over that rattle can. It's not going to end well for you. It'll end up being more of a mess and a waste product. So yeah, I would sand that down. Again, I don't, without knowing the project, it's kind of hard for me to say. Anthony, do you recommend chemically stripping, manually stripping, or circumstantial? Yeah, it really depends on the project. 99% of the time, I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be stripping it with either a DA or my buffer with sandpaper. I'm not a big chemical stripper guy, mainly because A, it's really harsh and it's a freaking mess. I'd rather deal with some dust, especially if I have an extractor fan that I leave in the shop to help get that out. So that would be my main thing. So yeah, I mean, with that specific project, depending on what's underneath it, I would start sanding it with like say 400 on a DA and seeing what's under it. And if whatever's under it's okay, sand the whole thing until it's all that. And then you're at 400. So then you can go straight to sealer. And then if it's Forever Seal, you can go directly over it with the candy pearl. If it's other black sealers, I would recommend doing like a 1 or 2 coats of jet black base coat before going candy. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I'm sorry to give you the bad news, but that would be my recommendation. What's up, JG? How you doing, brother? Donald, girls love some sparkle, man. I mean, they like to call it glitter, but we all know it's really microflake, right? But yeah, so the diamond pearls are definitely going to be what I would recommend. Thanks, Cliff. I really appreciate it, brother. I can't wait to see that Velara done, man. All right, so the next question. This one is coming from Jeremy. He didn't leave his last name, so I'm just going to say it's from Jeremy, and it's not from JG, because he would have done that. All right, so he is using the 4:1 clear from Tamco. He just cannot get it to lay out like glass. He's using a SATA 5000 RP with a 1.2 for clear. He also tried a DV1 with a 1.2 and a 1.3. He said he watched my video and he's still getting some peel. Is there any tips that I could give him to make it lay out like glass? Let's see. Did he say what PSI? So he didn't say what PSI he was using, but I'm not a big DV1 guy. I mean, anyone that asks me about a DV1, I will happily tell you that I hate the gun. It is one of the slowest moving guns that I've ever used. The base coat gun is probably great for collision. The clear coat gun is just super slow. Granted, I'm more of a custom painter, so I like to kind of keep it moving. And I work for myself, so it time is money, at least for myself, right? When you're working for someone else, it's okay to kind of milk the clock. But with an Iwata, no, sorry, with a SATA 5000, which I have used, I can give you a little bit more info. It looks like you're using a 1.2. I personally prefer a 1.3. A 1.2 is pretty, 1.2 is pretty small. Some people like it, but you're gonna have to crank that pressure, just to make it flow out, because it's a thick product, A, and then B, the 1.2 is just a really small tip. So my first thing would be, I would use a 1.3 if you have it. If you don't, with a 1.2, you're gonna have to crank the PSI. With a SATA 5000, I'm usually spraying at like 35. Again, you say 4-to-1 clear. I'm assuming you're talking about 4100. So if it's not 4100, drop a comment. Hopefully I can correct it. The only other 4-to-1 clear we have is the 1100, which is the more budget-friendly one, or the 2021, which is 4-to-1. So I'm going to assume we're going to go with it's 4100. So yeah, I mean, normally with a 1.3, I'm spraying at about 35 PSI, fluid all the way open, fan dropped in about an inch from each side. So about 2 inches total. So you want it to be about this big. I'm usually spraying about 6 inches from the panel. I move pretty quick, but that's also because I usually use a larger tip and I bump the PSI. With a 1.2, I would probably start around 40 PSI to make it flow out. The other thing you can do is add, 5-ish% of Tamco reducer. I'd probably go with slow, since it sounds like you're doing an overall. Hopefully that answers your question. If it doesn't, let me know, and we will kind of go from there. Anthony, I always do 1 to 2 drop coats for the metallic. Earlier when I was talking about the slick silver, I said usually 2 medium and then 1 or 2 really light. I said dust coats, but yeah, I mean drop coats, dust coats, control coats, whatever you want to call it. I'm glad I was smart and grabbed a drink before I started talking my mouth off. All right. Next question is from Seth Ewan, or it might be Evan and mistyped, but Ewan. His question: I'm painting my wheels as a DIY with the Raven color shift. Is it okay to do more light coats than 2 before heavy coat? I'm afraid to go heavy and it will run. You're not really going to go heavy no matter what you're doing. Normally it's like a medium, barely wet coat, especially on wheels. With Raven, you're probably going to do 3 medium coats and then 1 a little bit lighter, just to make sure everything's even and you got all the spots. I'm assuming you're using the spray cans that we sell. If you're not using the spray cans, let me know and I can give some pointers with the spray gun. But with this crow's gonna drive me nuts. Hopefully it's not bothering you guys too much. But yeah, with like I said, you're gonna seal it with the black, and then you're gonna do 2, 3 medium wet coats, probably 3, because with the super shift, you really want to get to that 4 coat mark for full vibrance and full coverage. So yeah, I mean, I would recommend doing probably 1 or 2 more like control coats, like I was just talking about with Anthony, which is a little bit past a dust coat, just to make sure everything's even and covered and everything's hit basically. Hopefully that answers your question. If it doesn't, like I said, follow up in the comment section, and I will get it. Also, like I said, guys, keep dropping your questions. I will get to some questions from the feed after I get through all these. Obviously, the form that I set up is going to get priority, since that's, I appreciate people doing that. But otherwise, like I said, if I have time, I will answer some questions from the live streams as well. All right, so Sean Warton, or I'm sorry if I can't pronounce the last name, but he asked, what primer do we have similar to VP 2050? So the VP 2050 is PPG's high build epoxy. So our closest product is going to be the 770 series. It's going to be a lot thicker, so just keep that in mind. You might have to reduce it if you want it to be more like VP 2050. But VP 2050 is really, I mean, people are using it obviously as a initial prime, as a high build prime, and even I know some people are using it as like a sealer. 770, you can't use it as a no sand sealer. You can use it as like sealing metal before bodywork and that kind of stuff. But it's going to build a lot more like say 5300 as a high build or something like that. I call that the Goldilocks product. If you want any more information on 770, I did actually just drop a new video on our YouTube, which someone hopefully can link here. If not, just type in the spray source in YouTube, and I just posted a video talking about all of our primers, best use cases, comparisons, that kind of stuff. Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. And then Steven asks, Steven Buttkiss, I appreciate you being here. I know you're here, brother. Can I use Tamco Intercoat over white base paint over it? I'm assuming you're asking, can you use Tamco Intercoat over white or water-based paint? Yeah, mostly use water-based paint. Would love to use your amazing colors to match with water-based paints. So if you can expand on your question a little bit in here, Stephen, I can probably hit it a little bit better. But to answer your question, yeah, some people have used the Tamco Intercoat with pigments over top without an issue. Obviously, ideally, you're going to use Tamco with Tamco. But yeah, as long as the water base is plenty dry, there's no issue going over it with the Intercoat. Obviously, you don't want to like super wet it out over top of it, you know, more like medium coats over top. And that would be the best way of doing it. But yeah, all of our base coats, we sell them pre-mixed now, which I know you know, because you got the Mystic Chrome in a base coat the other day. But yeah, rather than you can use the Intercoat because I know you're doing mostly airbrushing. But also our base coats, you can just reduce or over reduce to flow out of the airbrush as well. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, like I said, drop some more, you know, expand on your question a little bit more, Stephen, and I can answer it more, but hopefully that answered. All right, so I know you, how much paint would I need to paint half on my two-tone? Okay, so I'm assuming, who was that? I'm assuming that's Ron on YouTube here. That, are you doing just the, if you're doing just the exterior on a Suburban, I'd probably get 3 quarts, maybe even a gallon of each of them to go over it. At least a gallon of slick silver over a gray sealer. That would be my recommendation. You could always go with a little bit more. It's always better to have a little bit more. If you're doing door jams, obviously you're going to need more product. You can expand on the question here and I can answer. But yeah, I mean, you're going to use at least a gallon of slick silver to cover the exterior. You're going to use, since you're going to need more coats, you're probably going to use 3/4 of a gallon of each of the candies. Like I said, the candy pearl over both of them. And then I would probably get, depending on how much pigment you want, probably 2 to 3 quarts of the custom colors that we talked about as well, the pearl base coats. And then obviously you'll need your reducers, which all of those that I talked about are mixed 1-to-1. And then the clear coat I would recommend would be 4100 or 4105, depending on your climate. If you're above 90 degrees, get 4105. If you're under, use normal 4100 with either medium or slow. Hopefully that answers your question. No problem, Steve. I appreciate you being here, man. Hopefully you guys can tell me if any of the birds and stuff are bothering you guys. I got my chickens back there making noise, and I got this crow behind me. Let me know if you guys can hear it. If I need to move, I will, but just let me know. I got tons coming, man. I'm in the process of actually stocking up on a lot of really fun things, and I'm gonna actually really launch a ton of mystery boxes with our next sale, which should be within the next 2 to 4 weeks. That's the hope, at least. I will have more information later. Chicago. I don't know what the climate is right now. It's probably around like 70 degrees. 4100 with either medium or slow. Slow will help you get around that whole car a little bit quicker, or have a little bit more time to get around the car. So that probably be what I would do. Just 4100 with slow. And then the HR 1380 slow reducer would be my recommendation as well. Do you recommend using an adhesion promoter over a custom paintwork after you sand it down before applying more clear? I'm assuming you're talking about for a flow coat, and no. So obviously what he's talking about is after he does, a custom paint job and then sands it flat, usually with 600 wet, what they call either a flow coat or a glamour coat or whatever you want to call it. You don't need the adhesion promoter as long as you have it very well sanded with 600 and then all the edges with a gray scuff pad, and then cleaned really well with ideally 398 from Tamco, which is a final wipe. That would be all you really need. I mean, you'll have that mechanical adhesion without a problem. So no adhesion promoter needed. I would love to sell you more product, but you don't need it. All right, so let's get back to the next question. I just asked Stevens. So Mike Cornith, question on the high build primer. Can it be sprayed on bare metal? Does it need reducer? Last can of polyester be used in small imperfections? So first question, I'm assuming you're talking about 5300 since that's our most common primer. And yes, it's perfectly fine bare metal. I don't want you to do it on bare metal on a project that's going to either be left outside or a long-term project, so like in primer stage for a long period of time. If that's going to be the case, seal the bare metal with 660 epoxy, wait the 12 hours, and then do the 5300 as a high build. As a high build, no reducer as long as you have a 2.5. If you don't have a 2.5, it's not going to flow out. So then you might need to reduce it, but then it's not as high build. So, I mean, a lot of people, obviously I recommend our Eco HSE with a 2.5 for high build. But a lot of people also just grab a cheap Harbor Freight gun with a 2.5 or a 2.2 and then drill it out to a 2.5. Not something I'd recommend, but at least that's what I've heard people doing. So no reducer as a high build. Can polyester filler be used in small perfections? Absolutely. Ideally, you would do it on the epoxy first, and then the high build, and then block it, and you should be really close. But yeah, I mean, I use the Tamco polyester fillers. I've used Rage Ultra. I've used Dolphin Glaze. I've used 3M Platinum. All of those over 5300 is perfectly fine as long as it's sanded prior, right? So usually I block, like my steps would be 660, roughen the bodywork, obviously work before a 660. Do the high build 5300 over the roughed in bodywork that's been sanded. Block that with 180. Do any glaze or any other filler work, and then do a medium build 5300, which is 4:1:1, and then wet sand it flat with 600, and then you're ready for base coat. That's my way of doing custom jobs, which is what it sounds like you're trying to do. Just make sure that polyester filler is a good quality one. Z-Grip's okay. Rage is great. The Tamco polyester filler is great. Dolphin Glaze is fine if you're not building a lot. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. All right, so the next one I got here is Jimmy Thorne. So I have a tri-stage pearl kit and wanted to know if I can add a different color pearl to my mid coat. I'm going to assume by tri-stage pearl coat, you're talking about our Candy Pearl base coats. If that's not the case, drop it here so I can, update my answer. But yeah, so I'm going to assume Candy Pearl base coat. So you're asking if you can add a different pearl to my mid coat. So obviously you're either going to be spraying over black or silver. Those are the two best for Candy Pearl base coats. Black, you're going to get a much deeper, darker color end result. Over silver, it's going to be a lot more vibrant and bright. But yeah, you can add pearl to your mid coat for sure. So adding other pearls to your Candy Pearl base coat. A lot of people do it. A lot of people use my Diamond Gold, my Diamond Red. Any of the Diamond series really works really well because it still gives you that candy effect with giving a lot more sparkle of whatever color. Keep in mind, you're not going to get a true colored sparkle unless you do it over top of the candy, right? Because the candy concentrate is going to kind of swallow up that color. It's going to change the color, but it's not going to really give, like if you add purple pearl to red, you're not really going to see purple, really. So if you want to have a purple sparkle, put it over top, which I sell my Diamond Pearls already mixed into base coat, so you just reduce it and spray it over top right away. So basically it'd be like a 4-stage rather than a 3-stage. Hopefully that answers your question. Let me know if it does. No problem, brother. Happy to help. All right. So the next question I got is from Cole Scoffer. I'm not a painter, and I'm just going to be painting a custom-built e-bike frame. Awesome. I'm a big mountain biker, so I'd love to hear it. Wanted to see how good your paint looked. Do you have any pointers or tips? I have it sanded down. Got your primer. Where'd it go? Got your primer and clear coat. As recommended when buying the paint. I'm assuming you went with the spray cans. Let me know here down below, and I will kind of go from there. But yeah, and then what degrees should I be in? Any pointers? You know, that kind of stuff. So obviously, it sounds like you got the car rep epoxy sealer, and then you got the pearl itself, and then you got the clear coat. I'm not sure what color you got, but if it's one of the alpha colors, more often than not, you need the black sealer. Hopefully you got the black and not the gray. A lot of people have been buying gray on accident. But yeah, so you sand the whole thing down with 400 or a gray scuff pad, or even a red scuff pad would be fine on an e-bike. Do 1 to 2 coats of the epoxy sealer, usually medium wet. So you want it to be fully wetted out, but not super heavy so it doesn't run on you. And then once it's dry, like completely dry to touch, you can touch it without fingerprinting it, etc. Wait 30 minutes to 45 minutes, and then you're ready for the base coat. Then you do probably, depending on the color, if it's a super color shift, you're going to do, like I said earlier, 3 medium coats and then 1 or 2 lighter coats just to make sure everything's even and, you know, that kind of stuff. And then that would be, and then you're ready, you know, wait the 30 minutes after it's dry to the touch again, and then do 2 to 3 wet coats of the car rep clear coat. Shake that can really well, and then that you want pretty wet, medium wet. You want it to be fully flowed out. First coat you can go a little bit lighter, still want it wet, but then the next 2 coats you really want to make sure it flows out, because that's what's going to be the final product if you don't wet sand and buff, which buffing a bike would be a pain in the ass. So definitely wouldn't recommend that. But temperature wise, 70, 80 degrees ideally. Don't spray in direct sunlight. Anything colder than 70 is going to be pretty long time in between coats, and it's most likely going to run on you. So 70 degrees is really ideal. That's the sweet spot for any paint. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Let's check the chat real quick. Will OG red candy with CC3000 candy carrier, I should apply with clear gun or paint gun? So first off, it sounds like you're going to be doing a large vehicle, so I would recommend using our 2K candy to go since it's pre-mixed. I actually have a candy video that I shot today, which will explain why a little bit more in depth. That being said, you're going to use a clear coat gun because it's going to have a 1.3. Most people are spraying with right around like anywhere from 30 to 40 psi depending on the gun. Most people are right around like 32, 35. But yeah, so 2K candy, which is essentially what that is, clear gun is what I would recommend. Sorry, it's the yellow, just diamond silver, not gold or others. If you get time with this, wife is going through diamond pearls on the site. So if you're doing yellow, or a yellow base, red looks awesome. I actually did a Lexus with that over top years ago. I don't know if Phil's here. If he is, he can drop a photo. Looks awesome. Gold looks really cool over yellow. Silver is cool, but it's going to look a little more washed out in the sun. So my recommendation would be either gold, red. Those would be the two, or yeah, either gold or red. Silver is going to look cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, because you're only really going to see it in the direct sun. But personally, I would go with either gold or red. Since it's your wife, she might like the red because it kind of gives like a glow of like a metallic pink. It's really cool over yellow, but that would be my recommendations. All right. All right, let's get back to our questions. We still got quite a few that I picked. Some of them, either I didn't understand the questions or just in general wasn't a question. But the next one is from Cole. Nope, I just answered Cole. The next one is from Dennis Diamond. His question was just sanding primer. If you want to drop some more information here, that'll help me answer it. But for a high build, I'm using a 180 on a linear block usually. If you're doing a medium build, more than likely it's already pretty close. So you're going to start with either 400 and then wet sand with 600. That way you're ready for paint. But yeah, I mean, without more information, it's kind of hard for me to say. But that would be my recommendations. If you're doing a high build, 180 on a long block is normally how I go about it. And then I top it with a medium build. If you're doing collision, most of the time you're going to do a medium build anyways. But yeah. All right. So next one I got is from Corey Barker. Total noob here. I'm a musician and getting ready to try and refinish my first guitar. I have a can of black primer spray can, some Raven color shift paint, and the clear coat. Any advice before heading into it? So just like I said about that e-bike before, the main thing is going to be make sure it's really clean, it's properly sanded. So like a gray scuff pad or 400 grit, since you're going to be using the epoxy underneath it. Spray 1 or 2 coats, medium wet of the epoxy. Wait 30 minutes after it's completely dry to the touch. And then you can go to the Raven. Again, 3 medium wet and then 1 or 2 light coats as like a drop coat or control coat, like we talked about a few minutes ago. And then wait 30 minutes after it's completely dry to the touch. So after you press it and it's completely fingerprinting, obviously touch the masking, don't touch the project. Hopefully that's goes without saying, but I've had people do it. And then do 2 to 3 coats wet of the clear coat. Same deal. You want to spray another coat of clear coat once it's fingerprinty. Depending on your temperatures, it really will depend. Usually it's 5 to 10 minutes in most temperatures. 70 degrees, right around like 6-7 minutes. But yeah, hopefully that answers. And I'm here to help any noobs, so I'm all for it. And I'm excited to see the guitar. So definitely tag us whenever you do that guitar. And if you're not already, make sure you join the Alpha Pigments community group, because we all would love to see it. Sorry about those birds, guys. All right, so I got one more from Bill Barnes. Shooting your 4100 clear with a SATA 5000. I have the fan 3/4 open, fluid wide open, and 33 PSI. The clear is not laying down very good and looks heavy. What should I set my gun at? So you're pretty close. If you're not getting results you want, more than likely you're moving either too slow with that PSI, because that's pretty low PSI. I would probably try it at 38 PSI and see how you like it. And if not, bump it up a little bit more. If you don't want to bump the PSI, because I hear it all the time, I'm more of a higher PSI because it flows out a little faster and I can get around a car a little faster. But if you don't want to bump your PSI much, I would at least bump it to 35, but add 5% reducer. 4100 is, I mean, it's called a medium solids, but it really is a high solids by the industry standards. So that would be what I would do. Is personally, I would just the pressure. Because it'll help atomize it and help flow out. And then if you don't want to do that, add about 5% of HR 1380, which is the slow. And that should make it a little bit thinner, which will help make it flow out. And again, with the SATA, I'm right around like 35 PSI. If you want any other tips, I have a clear coat video, on the 4100 page, which is only for 4100. Or if you want to hear about other Tamco clears, I have a long form video as well, on our YouTube and our website, either one. But yeah, hopefully that helps. I look forward to seeing the end results. Hopefully that helps. So John Glaive, what can be done to prevent gummy primers from rapidly clogging the paper? John, I'm sure you're here. If you're not, you can reach out to me because I know we're friends on Facebook. But it really comes down to A, what primer you're using, B, what sandpaper you're using, C, what temperatures it was when you sprayed it. Maybe you you coated too early and you trapped solvent, so it's kind of gummy. Or maybe it's not cured enough, right? Depending on the product, like for 5300, usually 15-20 minutes in between coats, as a high build at least. And I always sand it, like if you're doing a high build, you're gonna sand it with like 180. I usually try and wait at least till the next day. I mean, that's a lot of product and a lot of solvent that's gonna be flashing off. And again, that's at 70 to 75 degrees. If it's hotter, obviously you can sand it a little bit sooner, but it sounds like it's either taking your, it's too cold so it's not fully cured yet, or you're trying to start with too fine of a grit on it. Or maybe you're trying to sand an epoxy, which is terrible to sand most time anyways, unless it's like a high build epoxy, like cross, like what VP 2050 from PPG is. Drop some more information here and I'll see if I can help any more. Otherwise, like I said, you can reach out to me directly and I can give some other info, but that would be my recommendation. Also, one thing to keep in mind, if your sandpaper's clogging early, because I think you got some linear blocks from me as well. If the car wasn't blocked with linear blocks prior, you're way more likely to get it to clog up because you're trying to straighten a product with not fine of a grit. So like if you're in your final prime, you didn't block the car with a linear block, it's a little wavy, right? So you're trying to block out waves with too fine of a grit. So that's going to clog your sandpaper as well. So depending on your scenario, hopefully one of those answers works. Latrice Williams, what is TSS? What is TSS, guys? It stands for the spray source. So that's my company. We sell paints, products, pigments, spray guns, adhesives, pretty much anything automotive paint related. Etzel Collins, how much paint do I need to paint a Dodge Ram 4-door quad cab? That really depends. That's a loaded freaking question, man. It depends on the color. It depends on the finish. It depends on if you're doing just the exterior, if you're doing door jambs. On that size car, let's say you're doing a custom color that covers well from Tamco. You're gonna use, and let's say you're not doing high build, it's already good quality. So you're gonna sand it down with 320 or 400. Then you're going to seal the whole car with Forever Seal. You're going to use just the exterior. You're going to use probably 1.5 gallons if you're not doing inside the bed of Forever Seal. Obviously, you'll need the hardener for the base coat. Probably 1.25 gallons of base coat, maybe 1.5 gallons. That's a pretty big truck. Probably close to 1.25 gallons. And then obviously same amount of reducer since it's mixed 1-to-1. Probably 1.5 kits of clear, at least one to do the whole car, because you're going to want to do 3, maybe 4 coats of clear. So really comes down to the project. If you have any other details about the project, I'll look through here. But otherwise, feel free to reach out again on another live stream, spit a little bit more information. Ideally, if you're doing door jambs, just exterior, etc. What's up, Josh? I hope your leg's doing good and you're back to work and enjoying life, man. I'm excited to see some more cool projects from you. Fonzo, why does 7600 clears always look milky white or black? And that's the only color that I get the milky white look. So it sounds like you're recoating too early, more than likely, and you're trapping solvents, which will give that milky look. I use 7600 all the time, especially on collision, and I never get a milky look. Very weird. Yeah, you're either recoating too soon, you're trapping humidity maybe, or I don't know. I'm not sure what that would be, to be completely honest. All right. So my last question that I got, that I picked for this specific live stream is from Chris. High build epoxy versus epoxy then DTM. So basically 770 series high build epoxy rather than comparing to 660 and then topping with 5300. If you go watch my video that I posted literally today, it really explains the two use cases. 770 I call the Goldilocks product. It's kind of, not a amazing high build when it comes to sanding, at least, and it's not, but it has the benefits of epoxy. right? So you're kind of like in between both. So my personal go-to, which obviously I have the product, on hand, so obviously cost is not an issue, is seal the metal with 660. Wait the 12 hours, do obviously any filler work, body work, that kind of stuff, and then do the 5300 as a high build on top. Mainly because 5300 sands a little bit better, and just overall is a better sanding experience. Obviously 770 is a great product to sand also, but 5300 is just on another level. I mean, people always say that that's like the entry, or like the entry into Tamco, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so high build 770 has its place, right? It's for those people that want to skip a step. So you're able to kill two birds with one stone, right? You're gonna epoxy seal the metal. That way it's completely waterproof. You can go put it outside, etc. But then you also have high build, so you're ready to sand it whenever you're ready. Granted, of course, it becomes just like any other epoxy. It becomes a lot harder over time. So definitely want to sand it within, I say a week, maybe two. But yeah, personally, I prefer doing 660 and then a high build. Can chassis black be final finish? Does it have UV? Yeah, you don't need a top coat chassis black, to my knowledge at least. It's a 2K. It does have primer built in, so it's DTM and everything else. The only one that I know you need a top coat if it's going to see the sun would be monocoat, just because it doesn't have great UV and it starts getting chalky. But yeah, hopefully that answers your question. Anyone? Let's see if we got any other questions in the chat. Anthony. Also, I'm completely stripping a 99 Integra with a JDM front end conversion, but I'm planning on Jam's engine bay, but I'd like to use your SoCal blue. So my recommendation, first off, SoCal's an awesome color. You can do 2K Candy or you can do Candy Pearl. I'm actually working on a video on the comparison and why to use either depending on your project. I don't know your expertise, but if you're not super familiar with candies, spraying candies, that kind of stuff, I would recommend doing the Candy Pearl base coat. So most of the time people do that over slick silver if you want that true bright candy effect, which you probably are with SoCal. So slick silver on everything. Obviously any high build blocked or sealer before that. But yeah, I mean, I would try and have it mostly together. If nothing else, at least have it set up, right? So you want to have the doors lined up, the bumper around, the bumper on the back. That way you can walk the whole length, because candies, you need to walk the whole length to make sure you get nice and even. I usually do like a 75% overlap, a little bit farther away than most base coats, just to make sure it's nice and even, because you will get striping even with Candy Pearls or 2Ks, obviously. But yeah, if you have any other questions specifically, I can answer a little bit more about it. But that is some details that I would do. Candy Pearl is always my go-to, especially on overalls. Easier to match, easier to blend. Obviously matching and blending with candies are hard, but because those metallics are already in it, it makes it a lot easier. And then also it's just way easier to spray, and you don't have to be in the paint booth for freaking like 4 hours straight. Because with like 2K Candy, once you start doing candy, you can't stop until you're done with clear coats. You got to do 2 to 4 coats of candy with 15 minutes in between after getting around the car, and then usually 2 to 4 coats of clear coat after that on top of it, all in concession without having too much of a window, because otherwise you either get delamination or dieback depending on the issue. But yeah, I'll wait here for a couple more minutes to see if anyone else has any other questions, or if you want to build any other questions. But I will bring you guys over to the paint booth to show you what I've been working on today as well. Like I said, I did a candy video. You guys will get kind of like a sneak peek just for being here. I appreciate you guys being here on my first live. I'm hoping to do this once a week. Let me know if you guys got at least some value out of this. Hopefully I'm answering some questions, making your life a little bit easier, and just in general helping you guys be a little bit more confident in doing your projects. So I did have one guy reach out to me today. I won't say his name because I'm not sure if he wants me to mention it, but he's struggling with fisheyes. So with that, the main thing is going to be what's your hose setup? How big is your compressor? Because maybe it's overworking and creating a lot more moisture. Are you using a fisheye filter or a ball filter, I guess, on the end of your gun? Or do you have a dryer? Has it been cleaned? Have you drained your compressor? All those things are basically what I had him slowly go through, right? So the first thing we did was made sure he had a dryer and made sure he had plenty of hose in between the compressor and the dryer, right? So ideally you have 300 feet or 30 feet in between the compressor and your dryer. So that's why most people have the drops on the wall. That way you have those 30 feet and you have the bottoms usually with a drain. That way, if there's any water in those drops, they clog here. So obviously if you don't have that, it's not the end of the world, right? You can have a smaller amount, just you're going to have more issues potentially, or you'll go through more fisheye filters and, whatever you have in your filter system a little bit faster. So ideally, this guy had, I think, like 3 feet in between the dryer. So I had him extend that. I had him drain his dryer, drain the compressor, which is huge. Every time you paint, you want to drain that compressor. I have an auto drain on my compressor, which you guys probably heard during this live stream because it's every 30 minutes. But that makes sure there's no moisture in the compressor itself. And then with that, after it goes to the dryer is all clean now, right? Because you drained it out and you put in a new filter, hopefully. And then it goes to your hose, to your gun, which is always best to have a fisheye filter at the end of your gun. I prefer the brand fisheye filter. It's literally called fisheye filter. We have them on the spray source. You can get them directly from them, but awesome product. And the main reason is I've had the little ball filters, the real cheap, like the Vilbus ones or Chinese ones or whatever. I've had them explode, and lots of my customers have. Also, it's not as durable. And I don't like the whole throwaway culture, right? Like I'd rather throw away a piece of paper, which is inside the fisheye filter, than throw away a piece of plastic. Like, the less plastic we use in this world, the better. So fisheye filter, if you have to use the ball filter because they're cheaper, use a ball filter. Check your fisheye filter or ball filter before every single job to make sure it's, ball filter, replace it every job. Fisheye filter, make sure it's good and nice and dry. Mine, I usually change every 4 to 5 jobs, but granted, I have a really good filtration system. But yeah, so with him, I made sure he went and got a ball filter. He just grabbed one from Harbor Freight, nice and cheap. And hopefully that solves his problem. He's going to hopefully be spraying in the next few days. I'm confident that those fixes will fix it. The next thing would be clean or get a new hose, because more than likely that hose is toast from, either your compressor or your filter just having too much stuff in it, basically, which is obviously not ideal. I appreciate it, man. It's not easy and it's a lot of talking, but I'm glad it's helpful. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate it, man. Thanks, honey. I really appreciate it. All right, Anthony. So one more question for you. Refinishing a sun damaged carbon fiber hood. So I'm not sure what the question is exactly, but I've done lots of carbon fibers, and lots of them, they get that yellow effect from them just kind of being faded from the UV from the poor gel coat or not being clear coated with good UV in general. What I usually do, obviously you're not going to get rid of that yellow completely because that's in the weave now, right? Because it's what happens is the resin itself is what is getting that UV damage, not the gel coat on top. The UV specifically is impacting the weave or the resin inside that holds the weave to the mold, basically. So what I usually do is sand it down flat. That way it's nice and even. Yes, kind of. It'll never be perfect back to normal. But what I do to mitigate that yellow effect is actually sand it down flat, usually with 600, 400, then 600, depending on how bad it is. But usually 600, that way it's nice and even. Don't get into the weave, because once you get into the weave, you're pretty much screwed. But yeah, so sand it all flat. And then my go-to clear for it is 4100. everyone knows that 4100 is my personal favorite clear. It just flows out great, looks great, helps bury it, overall great. So mix 4100 4-to-1, and then add a little bit of the black metal candy from Tamco. I sell it on the site. If you need to, you could add a tiny bit of jet black toner, but make sure it's a true black and just a tiny bit if you're using black toner. And basically you want to, just like how you smoke headlights or taillights, more or less smoke the carbon fiber. So that way you're hiding the yellow a little bit, but you still get to see that weave, right? Another easy thing would be use another candy color, depending on if you want it to look like normal candy or if you want to be a candy carbon fiber. I personally have always used black just to make it kind of look like that traditional carbon fiber effect. And it helps a lot. Obviously, if it's really bad, it's not going to be perfect, but it's a really good fix. I've done tons of client stuff and tons of my own stuff like that. So that would be my recommendation. Yeah, exactly. So like once the UV's gone, or once the resin's affected, you can put ceramic coat on it. It's not going to change it. You can wet sand and buff it. It's not going to change the color. Once it's yellowed, it's yellowed. So by tinting it, clearing it, you're going to mitigate that yellow a little bit, hide it, right? It's not going to be perfect. Make sure your client or you knows that, right? But yes, you want to sand it down with 600, and basically you're doing a flow coat of clear. So you're going to do 1 to 2 coats of tinted clear coat, spray it like a candy, so 70% overlap a little bit farther away, and then top it with usually 2 or 3 coats of straight 4100 or whatever clear coat you're going to use over top. 10-15 minutes in between coats. Again, once it's fingerprinty, have at it. But yeah, you're going to have to repaint it if you want it to look like black carbon or whatever, right? No problem, brother. Hopefully that helped, man. Yo! Thanks, Matt. I really appreciate it, man. The past 1.5 years with the spray source has been a grind, man. But luckily I have the team in place in the warehouse, as well as, you know, for customer service and everything else. So my time is freed up a lot more. So I'm hoping to do a lot more videos like this, or like my primer video or my clear coat video or the candy video that I'm about to show you guys a sneak peek on. I really appreciate it, man. And again, I really appreciate your support, your parents' support, and all my other customers' support. All right, so I'm going to take you guys into the shop. Now, mind the mess. I was kind of rushing, honestly, to get it done before getting on the live stream, which is why I was a couple minutes late. But basically, what I am doing in there is showing the difference between the 3 different candies that we sell. So candy concentrate, candy pearl base coat, and 2K candy, right? So not only am I telling differences, I'm also showing why 2K candy needs to be sprayed over a metallic base, or B, what the different candies look like over different bases, right? So, and I also discuss why I recommend either using candy pearl base coat or 2K candy whenever you're doing overalls or big jobs, rather than using concentrate with CC3000. Personally, I prefer using concentrate only with 895 for like small airbrushing or like small jobs or that kind of stuff. 2K candy is going to be more reliable if you want a 2K finish rather than using CC3000. And then the candy pearl base coat, you're going to use base coat. That's going to be way easier to get good results, match way better, and be way easier to spray overall, because that pearl just gives a lot more ability to kind of match. And again, I got the paint booth running, so if it's too loud, let me know. But let me see if I can flip this around. I'm not sure how to do it. Give me 1 sec. Here. Nope. Layout, setting, camera. There we go. I figured it out. Sorry, guys. I got the, I'm trying some new software. So, as I said, I was in a rush. I made a freaking mess of my brand new paint booth. It looks like I killed someone, but yeah. So, this is what I got. first off, let me show you a new silver I got. So this is an alpha silver. Obviously, this is just base coat, so it's just like a satiny finish. But man, is it a good silver. It is freaking bright. This is only 2 coats over black. Awesome, awesome, awesome color. I'm super pumped for it. But anyways, these are the differences. Can anyone tell me which one is which? Because I doubt you guys will be able to guess without reading my tape. So obviously this comparison was all OG red. So the concentrate, the candy pearl, and the candy 2K over silver or black. So these are the different ones. As you can see, this just looks black, even in the sun. And you can tell it's red, but it's black. Then this one, which is a little bit darker, deeper, great metallic, as you can see. Also great. Now these are top coated with the HC 1100 because I had that on the shelf and it wasn't too fast to go over top of 2K candies. You let me know which one is your favorite. I have a personal favorite. I'd be curious to hear what yours is. Drop a comment here. My arms aren't long enough. So all of these are OG red in different variations over 2 different base coats. So I'm going to turn it back around and finish it off. That's just a little behind the scenes of some different things. You know, a new custom color that's coming. Just silver, but it's a freaking awesome silver in my opinion. And then I got the different candies. This is my personal favorite. Second to this one, which is a little bit darker and deeper. It's really hard to show. Yeah, it's freaking awesome, man. That's freaking funny. And then I got these ones. This one is literally just black, which is exactly what I wanted to show you guys. It really proved the point. I mean, even directly in the light, it's black, right? So keep an eye out for my candy video. It's going to be discussing the different ones we offer, why we offer each one, what the use case is, and then hopefully it helps you decide what is going to be right for your project. And if you guys have any questions about my pink booth setup, I will actually probably be posting a review video of this specific one, and where you can buy it, information, you know, that kind of stuff. I do have this setup as well, which is really nice. So it has a exhaust fan, so that way I get a true cross draft, basically a cheap DIY cross draft paint booth, which is really nice. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this live stream. We're right at about an hour. If you guys have any last minute questions, feel free to jump on. As you can see, I'm in Virginia and the sun is going down. You can see the El Camino in the back that I am still stripping. Yes, it is still in bare metal. I will also give you guys a sneak peek on another project. This will be getting some color next week. Hopefully, maybe this weekend, maybe. But yeah, well, hopefully you guys got some value from it. And I look forward to doing this next week. I don't know which one was the second from the right, but I'm sure it was one of the 2 I liked. In all reality, 3 out of the 4 is awesome. But yeah, no, it is not on my website yet. It is going to be called a luminized silver. Yes, it's going to be in dry pearl, and yes, it's also going to be in our base coats. So going to be great for airbrushing, custom paint underneath candies like this, etc. So yeah, sounds good, man. But all right, guys, I'm going to sign off. Time for some dinner, hopefully. But yeah, hopefully you guys have a great weekend. Like I said, if you haven't yet, go check out my new primer video. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube. I'm really trying to push some YouTube videos in the next few months. Like I said, now that I have a dedicated team that has been taking the load off from me, from customer service, from shipping, obviously, etc. I'm going to be doing mostly content and stuff like this to kind of help customers, as well as, obviously I'm always trying to improve the website with videos and content and tutorials and that kind of stuff. So that's the goal. Again, drop a last question before I head off, but I think it's about time to wrap it up. I appreciate you guys being here, and yeah, go check out the new video and let me know what you think. I appreciate you guys. And if you're watching this now, after it's already recorded, drop replay in the comment section. That way, I know that you guys made it here. And anyone that replies, I'm going to try and reply myself in the YouTube section. So go drop an emoji over there if you want the paintbrush one, and I'll like and comment back to you guys. I really appreciate everyone being here, and hopefully you guys have a good night. See ya.